Hello and welcome to Silent Command Stream. This is the beginning of a new series that we're going to do about score study. Let me just say a few words about score study before we get started. Score study, I feel like, is a word that gets thrown around a lot. I've already said it like 3 times in the past 15 seconds. And a lot of the times we say, yeah, I need to go score study that, or let's do some score study. And it's easy to say it, but it's kind of hard to know exactly what to do. It's hard to know what you should come away from a score study session with and know how to apply the information that you score study into when you're actually conducting your ensemble. So the aim of this series is to walk you through a score study process and give you specific steps that you can take from the moment that you open your score to the moment that you're ready to conduct the ensemble. And it's going to be some longer videos, it's going to be more in depth, and it's going to be really hands-on. Like the format will be, I'll sort of preview a piece to you, then we'll take a look at it, we'll look at some excerpts from it, we'll analyze different parts of the piece and go through those steps that I'm talking about, and then I'll conduct the piece for you and show you how to apply some of the things that we're talking about. Sweet, let's get started. The first piece that we're going to take a look at is Movement 1 of Symphony No. 4 by Tchaikovsky. The score is free. You can find it online. There's a link beneath this video to the score on IMSLP. So please feel free to download the score, but we'll also have it on the screen for you. All right, here we go. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to look at when we're studying a score is the form of the piece. But before we do that, let me show you kind of what we're going to be looking at. So this is my handy dandy iPad Pro with Apple Pencil. Huge fan of the iPad Pro. It's great for score studying. This is the 12.9-inch edition. And I'm using an app called ForScore. That's spelled F-O-R-S-C-O-R-E. It's pretty much the industry standard right now as far as digital score keeping. And all I've done here is gotten my PDF score from the link on IMSLP, and I've imported it into the ForScore app. And now I can make annotations, and I'm going to be screen recording my iPad and then putting this voiceover over top of the screen recording. So you can see me talk and walk you through it, but you can also see my annotations that I just made on the page. Cool. Okay, so this right now that we're looking at is an example of the blank score. Here we go. So this is the first page, right? Symphony No. 4. Now let me show you what our end product ideally is going to look like. Here we go. So this is not a score that I would use in a performance, but this is many of the notes that I've made from score studying. And these are some notes that I've made from the way that I want to conduct this piece. So you can see I have not only specific points in the music, like here, but I also have some notes like, what are the musicians doing? Not, what am I doing? So a vital element of our score study is making sure that we understand all elements of the piece and making sure that we understand everything that's going on every level of depth. Okay, good. Let's go back to the actual one. Here we go. Let's see. Cool. Here we go. So now we're back in our unmarked score, Symphony No. 4. Okay, so let's talk about the breakdown of things that we're going to use, the steps that we're going to take to analyze the score. The first step is analyze the form. Now, what is form? You may have heard that word. I did not hear it in high school. I only heard it once I got to college. But the form of a piece is the structure of the parts of the music. So it's pretty easy in a large-scale symphony like this. There are 4 movements, and we can pretty much say, okay, the form of the symphony is that there's 4 movements, right? But it gets more difficult when we break down one movement. So let's look at this movement 1. So the form of the piece is the way a piece is laid out. I think it's L-A-I-D. L-A-Y-E-D, not sure. R-I-P. Okay, great. So let's look at the way that this piece is laid out. Just track with me here. So we're starting at the beginning. You want to take into account the opening style of the piece. So we have andante sostenuto. And andante generally means a walking tempo, but sostenuto means sustained. So it's a sustained walking tempo, okay? So start at the beginning. Let's just kind of page through and just kind of look at the large contour of the piece. So we're still staying in our andante sostenuto style. Good. Then we hit letter A. Letter A. Just got covered up. There we go. Letter A. Good. So we started out 4-4. I'm sorry, 3-4. Letter A, still in 3-4. Okay, look. Form change. We go into 9-8. So I would call this change to 9-8 the A section. And then the things that happened beforehand, this andante sostenuto, let's call that the intro. Then we can call our 9-8 the A section. Cool? Andante sostenuto A section. So when we're in our form, let's just make a little diagram of what our form is going to look like, a flow chart. Introduction to A section. The conducting professor that I study with, Dr. Richardson at the University of Alabama, he has a great way of thinking about a score. He says a piece of music should be like a story. And we as conductors are the ones that tell that story. So to know how we're going to tell the story, we have to know where it's going. So when you're doing an initial score study of the form of the piece, you're getting a feel for not just the little points of the story, but you're getting a feel for, okay, where do we start? Where's the middle? Where's the climax, the high point? And then where does our story end? Okay, so right now we're just looking at really the first couple chapters of the story. So the intro, the A section. Let's look at where we're going to go after the A section. So we have 9-8. Okay, cool. Got some stuff going on down here in the strings. We'll come back to that later. Fast forward. Looks like still some similar material. Very similar material. Very similar material. Good. Similar stuff. Okay. Again, we're still doing more of the same. We haven't hit a new rehearsal letter yet. That's really what I'm looking for right now. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe we did hit it. I think I passed it. Yeah, okay. There's letter B. But it looks like we're kind of in the same material wise there, right? So we're probably still in our A section. So let's continue on. Good. Now we hit letter C. We're still at a high dynamic level, still at fortissimo. So we'll keep that, still consider that the A section. Okay, keep on fast forwarding. I think I missed letter D. Good. There's letter D. Okay. More the same. Still continuing on. All that we're looking for right now, remember, we're analyzing the form. We're trying to find where the B section might begin. Okay, so this looks like we could have a bit of a style change. I'd call this right here the beginning of our B section. Okay, so now we're in, you can see we have a new stylistic marking that Tchaikovsky has given us. Moderato assai quasi andante. So this is quasi andante, which means it's going to be slower than andante. Quasi means almost, so a little bit slower than our walking tempo from earlier. And you'll notice, if we go back, that the instrument groups that we have playing here are much different. So this is a big clue that this is our B section because we have a different group of instruments playing. So I'm going to write us a big B here. Great. Okay, so let's go back to our form breakdown. You can see intro, A, B. Great. That's all we're going to look at for now is the introduction, the A section, and the B section. Okay, so step 1, analyze the form. Step 2, analyze the phrase structure of the different sections. So we've got our intro. We're going to break down the phrase structure of that. Cool. So let's look at our introduction. Okay, so first of all, before we even get started with that phrase, it's going to be wise for you to learn the different instruments in their different languages. Tchaikovsky was Russian, and I believe he wrote a lot in German. So you can see here, fagotti, that means bassoons. Corny, horns. I'll just write a little abbreviation for you here. Corny is horns. Tromba is trumpet. Tromboni, trombone. So this is going to be bass, trombone, and tuba. Fairly simple. And then the way that we break down this score, and this is an orchestral score, so the order is going to be a little bit different than a band score, but it's important for you to know all kinds of scores so you can break them down. Okay, so we got woodwinds up here. I'm going to write over here, woodwinds. Then we have brass. And then down here, strings. Okay, one thing that's different that you'll probably notice compared to your band scores is that the horns here are above the trumpets here. Normally it would be the other way around. Trumpet, horn, if we're in marching band, trombone, baritone, tuba, right? And that is reversed in an orchestral score for many reasons that I will not get into now. But once you understand, okay, I know where to look for each different instrument, then we can break down the phrase structure. So let's look here at this first opening line that we have. Opening line. So we have bassoon and all 4 horn parts playing at the same time. We're in octaves, and it's a very rhythmically dense melody. Bum ba ga ba bum 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 ba ga ba bum 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 ba bum 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 ba bum bum bum. Okay, that is my first phrase. And a phrase is a more or less complete musical thought or idea. So that's my first phrase, is this right here. Phrase numero uno. And the reason I can tell it's a phrase is because the musical contour of the line changes there, right? So you can kind of see we're flat contour-wise here, flat, flat, flat. Then we go up, back down, and then as we get to the top of this phrase, we're way high up here. Like this accented G in the horns, concert C. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's correct. Concert C. That is what marks the beginning of our new phrase, right? Okay, so we have bum bagada bop bop bum bagada bop 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 bum 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 bum. Good. Then we flip the page. I would call this thing right here, this little last 2-measure deal, a phrase extension. And a phrase extension is an idea that's not a complete phrase, but that kind of adds on to a complete phrase. So we have our 4-bar phrase here before, and now we have our 2-bar phrase extension. Cool. And what I like to do sometimes, I'll erase some of this crazy annotation. What I like to do a lot of the time is mark the number of measures in a phrase, so that when I'm looking down at the score, I can know, okay, there's 4 measures in this phrase. So at the beginning of this phrase, I might write, like right up here, 4. And then this little mini phrase, this phrase extension, I'll mark 2. So there I kind of know what's coming, and I can look at a moment's notice and say, okay, it's a brief breakdown of this phrase structure. Okay, good, let's continue on. So then we repeat that same melody, but this time it's in the woodwinds. So we've moved that melody, and the trumpet has it too. And then what does the, well, we'll come back to that. Let's consider the next phrase structure. So we have that same melody, bum, bagada bum bum bum, bagada bop bop, bop 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 bop, bop 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 bop. Sorry, bum, cut, restart. Okay, so we have that same melody idea. Bum, bagada bum bum bum, bagada bum 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 bum. Very cool little rhythmic modification that Tchaikovsky makes here. But we're not worried so much about the individual parts yet. We'll get to that, but right now we're just thinking about the form, okay? So obviously we have a note on beat 1 here, and we can call that one phrase. So let's count those measures. 1, ooh, voice crack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll call that 7. So it's a 7-bar phrase. Bum bagada bum 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 bagada bum 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 bum. So if you want to break it down into sub phrases, we got this little guy right here, the reiteration of this melody, And then we have this that extends all the way to the downbeat. So 2, call that 2. I'll write it down here. 2 plus 5. And again, these little notes are great for understanding the way that the phrase structure breaks down and the way that the different instruments break down. Cool, okay, great. So let's go on to the 9/8 section, and then we'll come back and talk about the next step in our score study process. And I'm just doing a little snippet, but you can apply this to the whole piece and to the scores that you're given for your high school ensembles, because I don't know, it would take a long time to go through this whole score with you in this video, but what this video aims to do is to give you the tools that you need to apply these concepts to your own scores. Great. Let's look at the 9/8 section. Okay, so this is our A section. So we have our pickup in the strings here, and this rhythm is very, very difficult. We'll break that down in just a little while. But right now, we'll call this the beginning of our phrase. Cool. So in analyzing this phrase, let's look at the contour of the line, the way it goes up and down. So we start fairly high right up here, right? Right over here with this D in the first violin, we start high, and then we slowly go down, 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 until we hit this C. It's a D flat, my bad. Until we hit this C down here, and that's really the low point of our phrase, and that leads us into the next subphrase. But we'll call this a phrase, okay? So this first phrase is going to stop right there. So it's 1, 2, 3.5, really, 3.5 measures. So let's just write that down as 3.5. Good. Okay, next phrase. Ba da 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 da. So here we have a little bit of an extension, a little bit of a phrase extension. We have this small pickup that leads us into the next page. Da 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 da. Right. Heading into the next page, we start to build, we start the crescendo, and you can see that the contour of the line is going up. The contour of the line is going up. So let's get our highlighter here. So we start heading up here. Then as this next page goes on, continue to rise, continue to rise, continue to rise. And then eventually this is the climax point of this phrase, this in the strings. And you'll notice they all have that note on beat, you can call it beat 7 of that 9/8 measure. So that is the way that we're going to break down this next phrase. So 3.5, we'll call this a half, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. Call it 4.5. Yeah, let's call it 4.5, and that'll give us an even. Oops, that'll give us an even 8 measures. And then you notice the strings stop right here, and they pass that pickup on that they played back in page, or back in the beginning of the A section. They pass that pickup onto the upper woodwinds up here, and the next phrase begins. So even when you're in complex meters like 9/8, it's still possible for us to have a breakdown of the phrase structure that makes sense, and you don't have to understand the rhythms yet. You just need to know the phrase and know the different sections of the music so that we can better understand what's going to happen within each of those sections. Really, the big name of the game as we're doing form and as we're doing phrase structure is to understand how we can further break it down. We're like kind of starting off with the whole piece, then we're getting like the individual bites or the individual larger chunks, and now we're going to break them down into bite-sized chunks to where we can understand everything. So we got form, phrase structure. Number 3, individual parts within phrases. Cool. Okay, so with individual parts within phrases, we're going to be looking at Molly Crawford, come here, Molly. Hey, you're doing great, girlfriend. You're doing so good. Just hang out. Shh. love you, but you gotta slow your roll, sister. Look out. Okay, so with parts within phrases. I love you. You're very sweet. Sweet Molly. You're very sweet, Molly. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I love you, Molly. Stay still, Molly. So with individual parts within phrases, the goal here is to understand how the parts are going to fit together. So the beginning is not really a great place to start for looking at that because we have a lot of the same structure. But let's look at, well, you know what? I think it is. Let's start that over. I suck. And cut, and this is the actual one, Samuel, go. So with individual parts within phrases, our goal is to understand the way that the parts fit together and be able to prioritize the parts over one another. Because as conductors, especially of our own ensembles, not of a marching band, but of like a concert inside ensemble, we want to understand how to balance the parts together. So I like to break down the part types into 3 different voices. The first voice is, let's go blue. First voice is melody. That's going to be our primary voice. Second voice, counter melody. Third voice, accompaniment. All 3 of these voices don't have to be present, but they can go back and forth. When they are present, it's important to know how to break them down. Great. Okay, so let's look at the beginning. Here, we can call this melody. Bum, bugga bum bum bum, bugga bum 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 bum. You've heard me sing that a million times now, right? So that's going to be our melody. That's the main thing that the audience is listening for. And there really isn't much melodic stuff that gets added until our next phrase. Cool. So now we're in our next phrase. Bum, bugga bum bum bum. Same melody, but it was once in the brass and now it's up in the woodwinds. Cool. And you'll notice we have a different line that was not present before. Before it was just our melody, but now we have this line right here. The bum bum bum. 1, 2, 2. Right? That line I would call an accompaniment line because it provides a harmonic, which means a chord progression background to the melody, right? So bum, bugga bum 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 bum. You can see that there's a rhythmic trade-off here. This half note fills in the beat 2 that is tied over in the melody. So Tchaikovsky brilliantly here shows his ability to make all of the beats in the measure appear. We're going to see that again in just a second. So this counter melody voice continues bum 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 bum. Okay, then this is something that I think is totally brilliant and that I love. So in a 3/4 bar we have 6 eighth notes, right? 6 eighth notes. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1. Those are 3/4 notes, and we break them down 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. Well, Tchaikovsky, in all of his brilliance here, is going to show us that he can make all 6 of those eighth notes appear. Check it out. Here we have 1. Here we have the and of 1, and of 2, and of 3. So those are our and beats, right? Here's 1, 2, 3. So you can see how these quarter notes in the horns fill in the downbeats for the melody. So bum, ba bum bum bum, ba 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 ba. So brilliant because he's providing all of that rhythmic contour. Great. Okay, now let's look down the score at this voice right here. Bum 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 bum. Those quarter notes fill in the gap and provide a bum 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 bum.
give us a lot of tension that builds up to this climax note right here at the beginning, or at the end of this phrase. So some brilliant rhythmic stuff by Tchaikovsky, and the thing that makes me able to pick up on that, and the skill that makes me able to pick up on that, is being able to look up and down the score and see how the parts fit in vertically. A lot of the times we're tempted to just look horizontally at a score, but we want to look vertically. Great, let's go back to our breakdown. So we've got parts within phrases, melody, countermelody, and accompaniment. Okay, then the fourth step is going to be actually applying this information and conducting the piece. You can hopefully read over here. Cool, so it's tempting to conduct only to recordings, and that's really sometimes the best thing that we have to do, is to conduct to a recording, just because it's all that we have available. We don't have an orchestra that we can just pull out of our back pocket and go and conduct. But if you get the chance, find a friend that maybe can play piano well, and find a way to conduct them on the piano. Even if it's not a big hard piece like this, if you can have the experience of conducting a live ensemble that responds to you, that is the best experience, because recordings, MP3s, Spotify, Apple Music, they're good, but they keep going and they don't need you because they're recorded. But if you're conducting a real ensemble and you make a mistake, they're going to respond to that mistake. And it's good to get that experience. In my conducting lessons, I always conduct my professor who plays the piano while I conduct. And it's been really helpful to see him respond and give me feedback based off of what he can observe me doing. Okay, so I'm going to conduct this to a recording, but I want you in your practice to see if you can find someone that could help you do otherwise. Okay, here we go. Let's try conducting the piece, and I'll break down what's going on. So you've seen the conducting of the opening introduction to Tchaikovsky's Symphony for Movement 1. What do you think? You see the baton version and the no baton drum major style version. There's some differences in the two, right? Let's talk about those differences. Number one, with the baton, things are a lot more subtle, ideally, right? So when you see me use the baton, I don't need to make my motions as big. So hopefully my pattern was a little bit smaller with the baton. Also, you'll notice in some of the dead spaces, like da-ga-da-da-da-dum,
bum. I didn't need to give that 1, 2, 3, 1 like I did when I conduct with the drum major style. Also, you'll notice that I break some of the rules that we've talked about in previous videos with the baton. For instance, normally we talk about how we want a basketball style motion, up and down, right? You notice when I conduct with the baton sometimes I go and almost the upbeat is essentially the downbeat of the music, but the upbeat with my hands shows that downbeat. And it's okay to break rules like that when we're inside and when we're using a baton, but when we make the transfer from the inside to the outside, we generally don't want to break rules like that. Talk about the drum major style. You notice how there's a contrast between my pattern size. When we first start out, it's very bum, baka ba bum bum bum, baka ba bum 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 ba bum. Very large and grandiose, but then when we get smaller and this texture gets more stratified, which means there's fewer instruments playing fewer notes at a softer dynamic, that my pattern size gets smaller, right? And I show the clarinets exactly where I want them to play, and I still am clear, but I minimize unnecessary information. So that's the name of the game with conducting Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 4, Movement 1. We're going to talk about Movement 2 in the next video and talk about how to conduct ballads with soloists, because Movement 2 is a great example of that. But as far as what you need to take away from this movement, take away that, number 1, it's important to know the dynamic level of your music and to know where entrances are happening. Because even in this introduction, we start off with a very loud unison section that comes in with some different top to bottom rhythms that fill each other in, like we talked about earlier in this video. So there's a lot going on, and if you can understand it, you can show it with your hands. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you next time. We'll continue to break down in Score Study Video 2. Thanks.